Welcome to Kansas Ag Report. I'm Ken Rogers. On this week's program, it's another Ag in the Courtroom with Dr. Roger McEowen from the Washburn School of Law. We'll talk about updates on the checkoff programs as well as recent court decisions dealing with livestock production on the farm and ranch. We'll also have features from Kansas Corn, Kansas Wheat, and the Kansas Farm Bureau, along with our weekly update from the Kansas Livestock Association and market information from Pinion, a division of K-Coe Isom. Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farm and ranch families since 1919, KFB.org. And the Kansas Wheat Commission, lending in the adoption of profitable innovations from wheat, online at kswheat.com. And agricultural news from agview.net. The Kansas Department of Agriculture recently updated its interactive map of Kansas, showing the economic contribution of agriculture around the state. Located on their website, this is an interactive resource and can be used to find the agriculture economic facts for each of the 105 counties in Kansas, as well as a report for the entire state. KDA annually updates the state and county economic contributions of the 72 sectors of agriculture and agricultural-related industries, which directly affects the state's economy. These sectors contribute an estimated $47.3 billion in direct output and account for over 135,000 jobs in Kansas. In addition to the direct output, the report includes the indirect and induced effects of agriculture and ag-related sectors, which demonstrates the total impact that agriculture has on Kansas communities. Now, this total economic contribution of agriculture, approximately $67 billion, it supports more than 238,000 jobs statewide. Now, you can find the full report at agriculture.ks.gov/KSAG. Well, preliminary data from the 2021 Kansas winter wheat crop shows an average test weight of 60.7 pounds a bushel. Now, that's compared to 61 pounds per bushel for 2020 and an average of 60.8 pounds per bushel for 2011 through the 2020 crops. Protein content averaged 11.3%, as down 0.3% from 2020, below the 10-year average of 12.1%. The Northwest District had the highest protein content, 11.8%, followed by the West Central and then North Central District at 11.6%. You can find more on these and other stories at agview.net. Stay with us. You're watching the Kansas Ag Report. The Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Grain Sorghum, growers working together. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. grassandgrain.com. And agview.net, serving the Beef Belt and Western Corn Belt with reliable and relevant agriculture information. agview.net. And it's time once again for another Ag in the Courtroom with Dr. Roger McEowen from the Washburn School of Law. Roger, boy, it seems like we always have to ask the question, where'd summer go?
Yeah, that's right. It sure moves fast, and I think it moves faster every year, it seems like.
Well, it is true, and so doesn't mean there's not a lot to talk about. And one of those, kind of our first topic we want to talk about is the merry-go-round of these checkoff programs. You've done some research and have an update.
Yeah, we've got another decision, this one by the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit on the constitutionality of the beef checkoff. And of course, to boil it down in a nutshell, the challenge by those that are opposed to the type of advertising that the checkoff does with their money are cattlemen that don't agree with the results they're getting out of the checkoff, and so they don't like the mandatory $1 per head assessment. They view the verbiage that comes out in advertising and promotion as being a violation of their free speech. Well, this has been through the courts for a number of years, and the key decision that we look at for guidance on this is known as the Johans versus the Livestock Marketing Association case out of the U.S. Supreme Court in 2005. And in that opinion, the U.S. Supreme Court gave us three markers or three requirements, whichever way you want to look at, to evaluate the constitutionality of government speech in the context of a checkoff. And the first of those is that the government has to exercise sufficient control over the content of the checkoff to be deemed ultimately responsible for the message. And then secondly, the source of the assessments have to come from a very large, non-discrete group. And then third, the final requirement is that the central purpose of the checkoff has to be identified as the government's. Well, the big issue there, really what it has boiled down to in all of the case law, is whether the government is controlling the speech. And this case originated out of Montana. And a lot of these states can have counterparts at the state level. They have state beef councils that are operating the checkoff from those states. And so the argument here was this was run by Montana. The federal government was not really, it was run by a private beef council. The federal government through the USDA was not in control of it, wasn't in control of the content of the ads. And so it really wasn't government speech. And the court indicated, well, in line with the Johans decision, and this is the frustrating part for cattlemen that are opposing this, is they have really lowered the bar on this. And they said, well, the USDA secretary has entered into memos with various state beef councils, memorandum of understanding under which the secretary can have the authority to review everything. Everything's supposed to be submitted to the secretary for review. The problem is the USDA secretary never really looks at this stuff, never really exercises the authority that they claim to have under these memorandums. And the court said, now, because the memorandums exist, the USDA secretary has the authority, has the control, doesn't matter whether it's really exercised or not. That's sufficient to constitute government speech. And so therefore there can't be a violation of private speech. The First Amendment is not triggered in these situations.
All right. Well, it's going to be an ongoing issue. It has been for a number of years. We'll continue to go on. So we're talking with Dr. Roger McEowen, Washburn School of Law. Let's take a quick break, come back with more in just a moment.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
What if U.S. soybean meal were more than a commodity? If seed companies and the soybean checkoff built a better variety? That future is here. The time is now. To meet end-user demands, the soybean checkoff is investing in the compositional quality of soybeans, including meal. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and Liberty Link that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Livestock Association, supporting members' business interests and meeting consumer demands. KLA.org. Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web at oldieseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. And Kansas Corn, building the future at kansascorn.com. And Dr. Roger McEowen from the Washburn School of Law is joining us for another edition of Ag in the Courtroom. Dr. McEowen, one thing that has been in the news recently here, especially in Kansas, but other places as well, is this kind of ag-gag law. And really, it's not necessarily a right to farm, but it's a way to protect those that are in production agriculture, especially growing animals.
Yeah, I don't like to refer to it as an ag-gag law. You're right, that's how it's commonly referred to, and that's what the public thinks when they hear it. But Kansas actually had the first law anywhere in the country designed to protect certain qualified animal livestock facilities, confinement facilities, from protection from individuals that would like to do them harm. And we've seen some pretty egregious cases across the country with bombings and so forth. So there are animal activists out there that are opposed to certain types of animal agriculture that will go to great lengths to stop it. And so the Kansas legislature saw that in the early 1990s, and they enacted a law. And a number of states in the livestock producing part of the country, primarily, where that's a big industry, have similar statutes. Now, the Animal Legal Defense Fund is largely the group that has been challenging these laws across the country. And we have two more cases brought by the Animal Legal Defense Fund that were decided in August by the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals and the 9th Circuit, involving the Iowa law and the Kansas law, respectively. Now, what these laws try to do is to bar access. They do a couple of things. We want to bar access to an animal production facility under false pretenses. In other words, don't lie to get a job, to get entrance to do what you want to do to damage the facility. And so at their core, the laws try to prohibit a person that has the intent to harm a qualified facility from gaining access to the facility through employment. And then they couple them with the intent to do harm. They will bar other acts once the individual's inside. So there are really two components to this. Now, real quickly, the 8th Circuit on August 9 rendered an opinion in construing the Iowa law and upheld the portion of the law that provides for criminal penalties for gaining access to a covered facility by false pretenses. Now, that's the first time that any federal circuit court of appeals anywhere in the country has upheld a provision that makes illegal the gaining of access to a covered facility by lying. On the other aspect of the Iowa law, the court said that the employment provision of the law, in other words, knowingly making a false statement to obtain employment, violated the First Amendment because the law was not limited solely to false claims that were made to gain an offer of employment. They said, well, you could exaggerate something on an employment form or an interview with a potential employer to make yourself look better, and technically the statute would catch that. And that's beyond what the purpose of this law is. So they struck that part down as unconstitutional. Now, the day before the Iowa opinion came out, the court also said that the challenge to the Arkansas law could go forward because the plaintiffs had standing. So there's still another case coming in the 8th Circuit involving the Arkansas statute. Each one of these state statutes is a little bit unique. Now, 10 days after the 8th Circuit rendered its opinion on the Iowa law, the 10th Circuit issued its opinion construing the Kansas provision that makes it a crime to take pictures or record videos at a covered facility without consent of the owner and with intent to damage the enterprise. So there are those two aspects to the Kansas statute. And the court combined those two together. They tied together with speech the gaining of access. And I don't think that's the right way to do it, but they tied the speech together with the conduct to say that the whole thing's unconstitutional. That's not the way the Eighth Circuit looked at it. They pieced them apart. So the Kansas statute was struck down in its entirety. And now we have an aspect here that we have differing circuit court of opinions on, and that issue is teed up now for the potential request to have the U.S. Supreme Court clarify the distinction between the circuits. We shall see what happens.
All right, Roger. So again, another issue that I'm sure we'll talk about in future programs. Quickly, folks can follow along on these and other things you blog about. How can they do that?
Go to my website. That's washburnlaw.edu/Walter, WALTR, and down that homepage on the left side, you'll eventually see the agricultural law and taxation blog link there.
All right, Dr. McEowen, always great to catch up with you. Thanks. We'll talk with you next month.
Thank you, Ken.
Dr. Roger McEowen, Washburn School of Law, has joined us. Stay with us. We'll have more coming up.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
This Corn Core class has been a very good thing for me and my operation, just being able to talk openly with other farmers that you're not in direct competition with. And it was the same thing in Kentucky and Tennessee. Obviously, I'm not competing with them directly, and they talk about challenges, whether it be succession planning, labor shortage, or landlord relations is a big deal that often gets ignored. But yeah, it was very interesting to see different aspects. That would be one takeaway that I got out of the whole experience, was just, networking in, very different places, yet we're all struggling with the same issues.
As we wrap this up, Alex, of course, you are a member of the Corn Core class number 4, and I know the opening time to apply for Corn Core class number 5 is amongst us. So a chance for you to put on your salesman hat. Why should that young producer out there be a part of the 5th Kansas Corn Core class?
There is a lot of things. It's real easy for us to get in our own circles and, put your head down and just get the job done and not think about, what anyone else outside of your local area is doing. But Corn Core allows you to get together with producers all over the state. We're talking about western Kansas that gets 9 inches of rain a year and eastern Kansas that gets 50, and get everybody in the same room and discuss challenges and things like that. And obviously, an all expenses paid domestic trip somewhere in the U.S. to talk with other farmers in some completely different area, that's kind of icing on the cake there. So I would recommend this experience to anybody. You're definitely going to get something out of it, and it's not a real time-consuming deal. I think it was maybe 3 or 4 weekends where we got together in various places across the state, kind of had some educational opportunities, and then wrapped it up with a domestic trip. So, and they also, one other thing, they'll offer to take you to the Commodity Classic, which is going to be in New Orleans in March this year, I think. So that is one additional trip that you have the opportunity to partake in as well.
And if you would like to be a part of that, you can go to their website at kscorn.com. Alex, I appreciate you joining us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That is Alex Vosberg from Maxville. He is a member of the Kansas Corn Core class number 4, as he joins us on the Kansas Corn Update here on 580 WIBW. It's brought to you by the Kansas Corn Commission.
What if sustainability were synonymous with U.S. soy? If energy efficiency, water quality, and soil health help define U.S. soy's value, that future is here, the time is now. To meet end-user demands, the Soybean Checkoff is committing to sustainability that's achievable, worthwhile, and enduring. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Kansas Wheat and K-State Research and Extension have announced Wheat RX, a new program to disseminate to farmers the latest research recommendations for producing high-yielding and high-quality wheat. Wheat RX is a series of extension publications and other educational outreach materials designed to address key management areas of hard winter wheat. These publications contain recent data based on novel research funded in part by farmers through the Kansas Wheat Commission's 2-cent wheat assessment. Kansas Wheat RX is a combination of suggested management practices for economical and sustainable production of high-quality and high-yielding wheat in Kansas. K-State Research and Extension Wheat and Forages Production Specialist Romulo Lolato is coordinating the Wheat RX program through K-State. Lolato has also been the lead researcher on several projects the past few years that have focused on intensive management practices for wheat. Results from this research will be part of the Wheat RX series. He said, in the last 5 years, we have learned a lot about the yield potential of wheat in Kansas, as well as how to manage the crop to reach its economical optimum. In this series of extension materials, we will compile results from the latest research, both on small plots and at the commercial field level, to educate our growers on how to maximize their profitability through management of yield and quality of their wheat crop. The first in the series of Wheat RX publications, Wheat Variety Selection, can be found at kswheat.com/wheatrx. More publications in the series will be released by K-State on an ongoing basis, including updates to existing publications as new research data becomes available.
Grain sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org.
Nearly 40% of rural Americans lack access to broadband, compared to just 4% of urbanites.
Rural is really our background. That's where most of our employees come from, rural markets. My family came from rural markets, and so that's where our heart is and what we believe we're here to serve. Having access to broadband, I think, allows people to stay in rural markets or to actually grow in rural markets. Without having access to broadband, and certainly significant speeds of broadband, you can't grow and in some cases can't even compete. Our communities are all a little bit different. The line speed capability was different when we went into the markets than they are today. For us, the most significant changes were Alma, White City, and Rossville. Our employees in those markets are extremely excited that they're now going to be able to serve the customers the same way we can in Wamego or our employees can in Manhattan or St. Mary's.
Grain sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org.
Premier Farm and Home has what you need to make your lawn the best in the neighborhood.
Hi, I'm Ken. We choose Premier Farm and Home for the professional look that we do ourselves.
Feel free to stop in. You can also visit our website at heycow.com.
About 20 Kansas Team Beef members joined more than 2,000 athletes from across the globe in the oldest and arguably one of the most difficult continually held marathons in the U.S. Since 1956, runners have been summiting one of Colorado's most famous mountains in the Pikes Peak Marathon and Ascent. While running half and full marathons, competitors endure a relentless 7,800-foot climb. A few brave individuals even compete in the double ascent. running both races for a total of 39.9 miles and 15,000 feet of climbing in 2 days. According to Kansas rancher and Team Beef member Jake Panbacker, it's one thing to say beef is nutritious, but it's an entirely different thing to actually see people relying on that nutrition to do truly exceptional things. He said that makes the Checkoff-funded Team Beef program one of the best tools to demonstrate beef can be part of a healthy and active lifestyle, whether you're trying to be the best version of yourself or literally running up the side of a mountain. Kansas Team Beef has more than 900 members who compete in everything from the local 5K to international races like the Boston Marathon. Members fuel their training with lean beef and pass a knowledge quiz about beef's nutrition and how it is produced so they can share with others.
Imagine turning soybean oil, used cooking oils, and waste animal fats into fuel so amazing it drives U.S. jobs and our economy forward. Learn more about biodiesel at americasadvancedbiofuel.com.
Kansas Corn reminds you that E15 fuel is the right choice for every kind of driver. For the car enthusiast, E15 has higher octane. For the thrifty driver, E15 is priced lower than regular unleaded. For the nature lover, E15 provides cleaner air. For the shopper who buys local, E15 has more ethanol from our Kansas corn farms. Choose E15 for a higher octane, lower price, cleaner American fuel. Message from the Kansas Corn Commission. Learn more at kscorn.com.
Good day. This is Derek Hermish with Pinion, a division of K-Coe Isom, taking a look at this week's markets. Hurricane Ida breezed through this last week and left some damage in its wake at the Gulf. Power outages and general problems that will need cleanup at several grain loadout facilities can be expected to cause some short-term shutdowns. There was, however, pretty severe damage sustained at a Cargill facility, and estimates are that it will take at least a month to bring it back online. Grain markets sold off early in the week due at least partially to Hurricane Ida and also partially due to the idea starting to take root that yield results could be better than expected as we make our way into harvest. Harvest pressure is generally inescapable this time of year. However, if the market can get through September without demand completely caving off and a huge surprise revision higher in the national yield, we'll probably be able to find a bottom price support that could give us a reasonable price floor of expectations from now until next spring. I'm Derek Hermish. Have a good day.
That's our show this week. On this Patriot Day, let's pause to commemorate the lives of those who died in the 2001 terrorist attacks on the World Trade Center in New York, the Pentagon in Virginia, and those who perished when the hijacked United Airlines Flight 93 crashed in Pennsylvania. You can be social with us online at kansasagreport.net or our social media channels. Next week, we'll talk grain markets with Dan O'Brien from K-State. I'm Ken Rogers. We'll see you next week.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn. For livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population, the farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and Liberty Link that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.